VR hasn't changed much this year, but next year there will be a bunch of new devices to shake things up. This video will cover both, with thanks to Kiponoma for his expert knowledge and interest in the scene. The best budget device is still the Quest 2. Yes, it's Facebook, yes, you'll moan about that, but it's still undeniably the best budget virtual reality device, and for just $300. Its hardware, software and tracking is all good, and it's getting better. Firmware updates have seen its refresh rate upped from 90 to 120 Hz, and it now ships with 128GB of storage, which is double what it used to be. And it can be used with or without a PC, wired or wirelessly. So yeah, moan about it being Facebook, but it's a damn good device. But say you don't want a Quest 2. For more money, you can get the HP Reverb G2. It's perhaps not such a good all-rounder, but is one of the best choices for racing and flying simulators, thanks to its high resolution, its comfortable design, and the same audio implementation as the Valve Index, which is excellent. A newer revision of this device has an improved cable and tracking coverage, which remedies some of the original's greatest shortcomings. So this might not be the best choice for everybody, but it will be for some. The Valve Index is still the best all-round device you can get, but it is more expensive than the ones I've already mentioned. You get a high refresh rate, immersive field of view and brilliant controllers, as well as the best audio out there thanks to those floating speaker designs which I can personally vouch for, and they produce the most convincing directional sound that I've ever heard from a computer system. However, the Valve Index requires external lighthouses to be set up in your room to track your position, and it doesn't have the highest resolution display anymore, getting beaten in that regard by the G2 and even the budget Quest 2. So just be aware of those things if you're considering the Index. So these are the best options at each price segment, but there are alternatives. The Vive Pro 2 is basically HTC's attempt at making a Valve Index, but it doesn't get it all right. The display is a higher resolution, and while its horizontal field of view is similar to the Index's, its vertical view is smaller. There are also issues with the headset's binocular overlap, the microphones are terrible, and the controllers are dated. All that at a higher cost than the Index. Its saving grace is its resolution, its somewhat better availability, and its compatibility with Vive's wireless adapter, although using that does come with a trade-off to its resolution and refresh rate. The HTC Vive Flow is standalone and can't be used with PCs. However, it's interesting because it uses pancake lenses, which enable smaller and less bulky designs and better quality displays. The Vive Flow is lightweight and is adjustable so you won't need to wear glasses. The headset is flawed in other ways, but it is a sneak peek at the future of VR, where we won't require such bulky or heavy designs. The Varjo Aero prioritizes visual clarity above everything else, with excellent lenses and displays. However, it has a poor field of view and no audio or microphone integrated into the device itself, which is an oversight given its price, and the device is inconvenient to use because it's hard to take off and lacks pass-through cameras so that you can see where you are even when the headset's on. At $2,000, it's a niche product, from a company that primarily provides VR for businesses. But you'll know if it's for you. And a very recent new headset is the Apara 5K, which comes in both a PC and standalone variety. These are based on the compact pancake lenses and have excellent image quality. However, it's still too early to tell how good these devices are. They're currently being sent out to YouTubers to test, but there have been some questions about the build and display quality, so check out reviews for it first. And now we look forward to the future. Some of these may be released in 2022, others might be later still, so treat this as a glimpse to the future instead of being a roadmap of the coming year. The Lynx R1 is from a company that entered the VR arena to provide an alternative to Oculus's dominant position and closed platform. The R1 can switch between virtual and augmented reality, meaning that you can wear it as you're walking about, and still see where you're going thanks to the front cameras. The augmented reality aspect to it means that it can overlay information and 3D objects into your surroundings as you're travelling about. It's one of those technologies that's so new that I'm struggling to imagine the possibilities of it, and how exactly it's all going to be implemented into reality. There are no cables, and the compact speaker system all makes this headset extremely small. As for how it will function as a VR headset, its specifications look competitive with the Quest 2, and it's priced at $500. The PSVR 2 is finally a second generation of VR for consoles. So far, little is known about the headset itself, but the controllers have been shown and look exciting. They do away with the awkward PSVR design and instead look like this, which makes them more like the conventional PC VR controllers that we're used to. They may come with adaptive triggers, like on the PS5 controller, which means the trigger will stiffen and loosen depending on what you're doing in the game, in order to boost immersion. Also, shame on Xbox for neglecting the VR space, after Microsoft's fleeting foray into mixed reality a few years ago. The vice president of Microsoft's gaming division claimed that nobody's waiting on VR, which is odd because the Quest 2 has already shipped more units than the Xbox Series S and X combined. The resolution of the headset looks to be 4 times that of the first-gen console VR, putting it up there with the best VR devices of 2021. Though sadly, right now not a lot else is known about the panel. Sony recently showcased themselves testing a very high-resolution OLED microdisplay. These were 8K in resolution though, so it's unlikely these will be featured in a VR device. But similar tech might be used, likely in conjunction with a more compact design using the new pancake lenses. The refresh rate is currently unknown, but the first generation supported 120Hz, but obviously never reached it because consoles. Valve's next-gen VR headset is still unknown, but the company filed a lot of patents before and after the Index's release, all of which hint at another VR device. The YouTube channel, Sadly It's Bradley, has covered a lot of these and speculates that it will have interchangeable head straps to serve different purposes, for example a standalone and wireless mode, and the screen should be using OLED microdisplays, making the device significantly smaller and better. And Facebook isn't sitting still either. As they gear up for Meta, there's talk of Project Cambria, which will be a higher-end VR headset that's smaller and may even do augmented reality. The controllers appear to be using cameras instead of physical rings for tracking, and the patent suggests that a mirror may be used for full-body tracking. More will be shown in 2022. Pimax is promising another VR headset, this time with a 12K model, with support for things like face and full body tracking, high field of vision, high resolution, a new lens type, and wireless standalone functionality. However, Pimax has a tendency to overpromise and to underdeliver, so wait for reviews. And I'll briefly mention the others. The Russian space agency, Roscosmos, announced 2 VR headsets a while ago. They haven't come out yet, but their specs are impressive and supposedly have good field of view displays. But we haven't heard anything new about this for a while, so these devices might no longer be things. The Diver X Half Dive is a VR device that you can use lying down in bed. It comes in several price tiers, but the big selling point is that you can use it lying down in bed. This means it isn't constrained by the same form factors as portable devices, allowing for it to be bigger, heavier, and to provide stuff like a proper speaker setup. And it's great news for the physically impaired, who may be unable to use VR in a standing position. The Huawei Glass VR headset is a very small device with a high resolution and pancake lenses. Their first headset only had 3 degrees of freedom, but this time around it will support a full 6 degrees of freedom, making it suitable for general VR content and gaming. Body tracking is also advancing, and a few new names and products have rolled out onto the scene. Vive 3.0 and Tundra trackers are already out, and next year Stonks VR and Slime VR should be joining them as cheaper alternatives. In conclusion, when it comes to VR, most of 2021 has been kind of boring, but in recent months we've seen companies gearing up to release a new generation of tech, with new lenses and display types, all of which will become more prevalent in 2022. It looks like the coming year will be full of next-gen VR tech, and should be exciting to follow. But if you're looking to buy right now, Oculus remains the dominant VR company in the West, but we may see competition from Pico Neo, a VR device that's big in Asia. So here's hoping for better technology, more options, and more accessible VR for everybody.